Imagine a silent city, where the only sound is the rattling of a cart hauling piles of the dead. Through the thick, yellow fog emerges a figure that looks more like a monster than a savior. A bird-like beak, wide leather robes, and a gaze hidden behind glass. To the terrified citizens, this mask was a symbol of hope, a shield against an invisible killer. They believed the aromatic herbs stuffed inside the beak filtered out the miasma of death. But this shield was a lie. In reality, the very tool designed to save the physician was a catalyst for disaster. The mask didn't just fail to stop the plague, it created a false sense of security that led to a lethal mistake. Today, we peel back the leather and the myth. We will uncover why the iconic plague doctor outfit was a medical failure and how its design actually endangered the people it was meant to protect. This isn't just a story about a weird mask, it's a dive into the deadly gap between ancient superstition and scientific reality. By the end, you'll see why the beak was a death trap. To understand the mask, we must travel back to an era of absolute terror. The Black Death had ravaged Europe for generations, leaving behind a trail of empty villages and shattered economies. Medicine at the time was not based on germs, but on the miasma theory. Physicians believed that diseases were caused by bad air, a poisonous vapor that smelled of decay and filth. If you could smell the rot, you were inhaling the death. Therefore, the logical solution in their minds was to block the scent using strong perfumes, spices, and aromatic herbs. Enter Charles Delorme. In 1619, this French physician formalized the outfit we recognize today: the wide-brimmed hat, the long leather coat, and the infamous beak. The leather was waxed to keep miasma and bodily fluids from soaking in. The beak served as a primitive respirator, stuffed with theriac, a complex mixture of herbs intended to purify the air. Now, let's address the most iconic part of the ensemble: the beak. This wasn't just for intimidation, it was a primitive attempt at a biological filter. The beak was stuffed with aromatic herbs, dried flowers, and spices like camphor or mint to purify the air. This design was based on the miasma theory, the belief that diseases were caused by bad air or noxious smells. Doctors believed that by filtering the air through these sweet-smelling herbs, they could create a protective barrier between themselves and the contagion. But here is where the logic fails. While the herbs might have masked the smell of decaying flesh, they did absolutely nothing to stop the actual cause of the plague. The Yersinia pestis bacteria doesn't care about the scent of lavender. In fact, the mask provided a dangerous sense of false security. Because the doctors felt protected by their gear, they were more likely to venture deep into the heart of infected wards, bringing them in direct contact with the true culprits. And what were those culprits? Not the air, but the fleas. Specifically, fleas hitching a ride on the backs of black rats that infested every corner of the medieval city. The leather suit was meant to keep the bad air out, but it created a warm, dark environment perfect for fleas to hide in. The very costume designed to save the doctor became a mobile sanctuary for the parasites. This is the tragic irony. By wearing the mask and suit, the doctor wasn't just failing to protect himself, he was potentially becoming a super spreader. As he moved from house to house, he carried a colony of infected fleas on his person. Furthermore, the mask's limited visibility hindered the doctor's ability to properly diagnose patients. The narrow glass eyepieces created blind spots, making it easier to miss early signs of infection or critical symptoms. The treatment offered by these masked figures was often as deadly as the disease. From bloodletting to applying pigeon droppings to buboes, the mask gave a veneer of professional authority to practices that actively weakened the patient's immune system. Ultimately, the mask was a monument to human error. It was a psychological shield that offered no biological protection, turning the healer into a harbinger of death and the cure into a catalyst for further contagion. The ultimate irony was that the mask didn't just fail, it acted as a psychological barrier. While doctors thought they were safe, the lack of airflow and the suffocating heat inside the beak often led to fainting or exhaustion, leaving the plague-stricken patients with an unconscious doctor and no one to help. The cure was a costume that blinded the healer to the reality of the disease. The beak mask remains a haunting symbol of human desperation and the danger of pseudoscience. It represents a pivotal moment in history where the desire for a visible solution outweighed the need for an actual, evidence-based cure. This era of trial and error, though brutal, eventually forced the medical world to move away from mysticism and toward the germ theory we rely on today. Beyond medicine, the image of the plague doctor shifted from a figure of hope to a harbinger of doom. Whenever a city saw those beaks appearing in the streets, they knew the death toll had reached a tipping point. The mask became a visual shorthand for the apocalypse, a legacy that still lingers in our horror movies and Gothic literature. We are reminded that in times of global crisis, the fear of the invisible can lead us to trust the wrong protectors. The beak mask was an attempt to control the uncontrollable, proving that a feeling of safety is not the same as actual safety. It is a timeless lesson in the necessity of rigorous scientific verification. The mask was designed to keep death at bay, but in the end, it only hid the truth. If you want to see more instances where medical miracles turned into historical nightmares, click the video on your screen now.